Hi everyone, I hope you watched the previous video which tells you the database concepts and the terminologies that we learn in RDBMS. Okay, so in this video I'm going to introduce you to something called the SQL. Okay, so in this video what all are we going to learn? We're going to learn what is SQL. We will learn the difference between SQL and MySQL, the various data types that we will be using in MySQL, and the classification of SQL commands. Okay, so now what is SQL basically? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Okay, then what is the difference between SQL and MySQL? The term MySQL you must have learned in the previous video where I said MySQL is nothing but an RDBMS. Now just to revise with what an RDBMS is, what is an RDBMS? A software that can manage bulk amount of data. So MySQL is a software basically that allows you to manage large amount of data. Then what is SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language? It is the language that I use to access an RDBMS. So it's nothing but a language used if you have to work with an RDBMS. So MySQL is the software, which is an RDBMS, whereas SQL is the language that I use in MySQL to manage bulk amount of data. When you say manage bulk amount of data, what does it mean? It means store bulk amount of data, retrieve bulk amount of data, delete, update, and so on. So our concentration is the various SQL commands henceforth. Okay, but before that, before we get into the different SQL commands that you need to learn according to syllabus, we need to know something called data type. Okay, you must have come across the word data type in any other programming language that you've learned. If you've gone through my Python series, we have learned the data types of Python. What does the word data type mean? It means the kind of data that can be handled by your particular programming language. Okay, so what kind of data does your programming language handle? So when we come to data types here, we're talking about the data types that you can see in MySQL. These are just the basic data types. There are more data types than these. Now, when I say, so let's start with the first data type. When I say char stands for character. So when I say the data type is character, it means a string concept when you talk about Python or any other programming language. So when you're talking about a string, you mean char data type. Both char and varchar, both are string categories. That means they come under the category of strings, and they mean strings when you compare it with other programming languages. Now, what do I exactly mean by char n? What does that n in bracket mean, or varchar n in that bracket mean? Let's say while I'm creating a table, I write name and I write char in bracket 15. What does this mean? I have a column called name in my table, and the maximum number of characters that can appear in the name column is 15. That is what that n parameter means when I write with char. So char n would mean name is a string basically, and it can consist of maximum 15 characters. Then what happens if I would have written name varchar of 15? This would also mean name is a string and it consists of 15 characters. Then what is the major difference between char and varchar? We say char is a fixed length data type, whereas varchar is a variable length data type. Now, what do I mean by that? If I wrote name char as 15, okay, 15 bytes will be occupied by every name that is stored in the database. So if I talk about my name, which is JINI, 4 charactered only, I will still be allotted 15 bytes because that's the max size. So every name in that name column will be allotted 15 bytes because you said char of 15. Okay, but when I say name varchar of 15, what happens is the number of bytes allotted to me in that particular column is depending upon the length of the string. For example, if my name is Ginny, I need to be having only 4 bytes allotted to my name. But let's say if the name is Fatima, Fatima has 6 characters. So that means 6 bytes will be reserved for Fatima's name. So it's not fixed. The number of bytes allotted to a name is not fixed. It varies. That's why it's called varchar or variable character. Is that clear? Okay. Then we come to the data type called int. Now int stands for integer. So when I say int, so let's say I have a column called roll number and I say roll number is int. That means roll number is an integer. It cannot consist of decimal points. Okay. There is an option. I could write this as well. Roll number int round brackets 5. What does that mean? I'm even fixing the number of digits that can appear in the integer. So if I say roll number int round bracket 5, it means roll number can only be a 5-digit number. Okay. If I do not write that, it is whatever is the default setting for that particular RDBMS. Clear? Okay. Next, we have a data type called float. Float means a number that can have a decimal point. That means numbers, you may see numbers after the decimal point also. What does this mean? That the percentage column can consist of 5 digits. So whatever a value that you enter in the percentage column is going to consist of only 5 digits. Out of the 5 digits, 2 digits are allowed after the decimal points because you said comma 2. So 2 here represents the number of digits that you can see after the decimal point. So then obviously, how many number of digits can you see before the decimal point is 3. So 5 is the total number of digits. 2 represents the number of digits that appear after the decimal point. So then how many number of digits can you have before the decimal point is nothing but 5 minus 2, which is 3. Is that clear? So remember the difference between int and float. Int talks about a number without a decimal point and float talks about a number with a decimal point. Then coming to the data type called date. Suppose I'm storing the date of birth and I write date of birth date. Now date doesn't have anything in bracket because you cannot say I want a 4-digit date or a 7-digit date because date has a format. Now, what is the format that is followed by MySQL, like by default, is YYYY hyphen MM hyphen DD. This is the format followed by MySQL by default. But I'm not saying you have to use this format. The format could be changed as well in the MySQL, environment. Okay, but by default, the format is going to be YYYY. That's a 4-digit year, followed by the 2-digit month, followed by the 2-digit day. Is that clear? So these are the various data types that you can see in MySQL. Okay, next let's go to the classification of SQL commands. So SQL commands are classified according to your syllabus into 3 categories. But if you're talking about general, a SQL command can be classified into any 5 categories. I will mention the 4th and the 5th, but that you don't learn according to your syllabus. The first category is called the DQL, standing for Data Query Language. The command that you will learn under this category only allows you to query your tables or your databases and get an answer. Okay, so which means it basically just goes to the database, fetches the data for you and displays it to you. And the command that you will be learning under the DQL classification is called the select command. Clear? Okay. Next, we have the DML, standing for Data Manipulation Language. These commands allow you to make changes to the content of your table. That means you can add more things into your table by means of the insert command. You can delete existing contents from the table using the delete command. And you can probably modify, let's say somebody's percentage you want to modify, or date of birth you want to modify. Any modification that you want to do, you can do it by means of the update command. And all this manipulate the data that you have stored in the table. So it's called data manipulation language. And the last one that you need to learn according to syllabus is the DDL command. That is data definition language commands. Data definition language does not deal with the data in the table. It deals with the structure of the table. Okay, what do I mean by structure? I am not worried about what is stored in the table. I am worried about how the table is created. And in that scenario, to create a table, we use the create table command. To delete the table, we use the drop table command. And let's say after creation of the table, you wish to add more columns to the table, or you want to change the data type of a particular column. You want to do many more certain things that you will learn under the alter table command. We will be using the alter table command. Now there's a difference between update and alter table. The first difference, and a very commonly asked question, the first difference that you will say is update is a DML command, whereas alter table is a DDL command. Secondly, update does alteration to the data within the table, whereas alter table does alteration to the structure of the table. It does not touch the data within the table. Apart from this, there are two more classifications. That's called the DCL, that's data control language, and the TCL, that's transaction control language. But those commands are not in syllabus, so we stick to these three classifications. Another very important thing that you need to know is SQL is not case sensitive. What does that mean? You can write your command in capital, you can write your command in small, and it doesn't matter. You must have learned in Python is case sensitive. Things that have to be in capital has to be in capital. Things that have to be in small letters have to be in small letters. But that's not the case with SQL. You may write your command as you please, but what you need to remember is at the end of every command, you need to be putting a semicolon, because semicolon determines the end of the command. When you actually download MySQL on your computer and you actually practically work on it, you could write the command in a single line, you could write the command on multiple lines. Then how does it know that you're done with the command? Is when it comes across the semicolon. So semicolon is a must if you need MySQL to know that you're done with your command and now this command has to be executed. Is that clear? So I hope the basic of SQL is clear. In the next video, what we are going to learn is we'll start with the select command. But again, the select command will go on for another 2 videos, because I'll be just telling you the basic of all the easy things that you can do with the select command. And after that, probably get into things that is complicated. Okay. So I hope everything is clear now and you must have understood everything that I need to, tell you here. So if you think you have enjoyed watching it and you have liked what has been told to you, you have understood everything, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.